Awww Yeah. We had to do that, man, because obviously, you know what I'm saying, if you were looking at the camera and if you're listening to the podcast, I want to tell you why we did that. If you got to be of a certain age to know what I just did. That is like one of the most recognizable intros that you're ever going to hear on rap albums that you know and enjoy. We have the one and only Mr. James Prince in the building, man. How are you doing today, sir?
Oh, yeah. Live and in living color, homie. It's a beautiful day.
Yeah.
Yeah, Atlanta's showing me a lot of love, and hey, I feel at home.
No doubt. Now, I don't know if you've ever heard the show before, but you've been on a press tour. You done did every show that should be done, so we appreciate you including us. But we will not be asking you the same questions that everybody else asks you, and it won't be no rap beef questions. Won't be none of that shit. We gonna get into what Jay Prince is all about, man. 100%. So, we start off currently, man. It's crazy. Like we woke up this morning to hear about the suicide of Anthony Bourdain from what's the name of CNN? What's the name of the show on CNN? No Parts. Y'all know
Parts Unknown.
Parts Unknown. So Kate Spade, committed suicide earlier this week, and in the book, you talk a lot about, and the book is The Art and Science of Respect.
Yeah. James
Prince. You talk a lot about just dealing with adversity, dealing with depression, dealing with attacks on you. How are you able to keep your head up and fight through all of these things? Because, a lot of us deal with this stuff but don't know how to really deal with it. And as you see, some people, they can't take the torment no more, and they just, they end it. But how have you dealt with it and been able to overcome all those things that you've dealt with?
Yeah. First of all, let me say suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem.
Straight up.
You know what I mean? So we ain't got to go out that way because it's temporary.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Once you cross that line, it's a permanent solution to a temporary problem. Me and my foundation is a spiritual foundation that keep me, glued together. So therefore, when you have a foundation where you believe and connected with the Almighty, I don't come to the point where I want to, jump out a window or fall apart and throw in a towel and give up. So, my advice is to, tap into something that's alive, that's solid, and in the midst of the storms, you won't feel that way, because everybody know, if you don't know, in life you're either in a storm, just got out of a storm, on your way to a storm. So understand that all the storms are temporary, and hold on.
Like when would you say you kind of came to that realization? Because a lot of folks, like, they obviously aren't born thinking like that. You know what I'm saying? Just like, when would you say you came to that realization? Because like you say in the book, and as your story is well documented, like like life started off for you pretty damn crazy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So when did you come to that realization to have that foundation, man?
Well, I think as parents, we have to, share that foundation with our kids, because that's what happened to me. You know what I mean? In my book, I mentioned, my mother put me on a bus. You know what I mean? It was a church bus, to go to church. And that ride, going to the church and listening to that preacher. He was a 10th grade dropout. His name was C.L. Jackson. The man, I was able to grab some life-changing moments, just from his words. But life and death is in the tongue. Mm-hmm. And he bred life in me just based on, the word from up above.
Yeah. I know a friend of the show and friend of me and Reese's, 40 always talks about, Proverbs and that being like his go-to when he, is dealing with something. Do you have a scripture or a particular passage that's like, when you having one of them days, like, let me go back to this to center me, to get me back where I need to be?
That's mine, Proverbs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The author, King Solomon, the wisest man in the world.
Yeah.
So, when I first read Proverbs, I was like Moses. If y'all remember, he came down from the mountain, his eyes was... Proverbs had, opened my eyes.
Yeah.
So it's a powerful chapter in the Bible, along with all the others, but that one mean the most to me.
You know, speaking of chapters, man, you know, we were joking off air. You said, you know, on this press run, this is quote unquote the most talking I ever did in my damn life.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So writing the book, man, I mean, like, what made you want to do this? Because, you know, when people come up with their first album, that's thought of as like the soundtrack of their life up to that point.
Yeah.
That said, like, what does this book stand for in your life? And, you know, when did you arrive at the point that you want to do this?
Yeah, this book, you know, as we know, is the art and science of respect. And I named it that because that means something to me. That's what I represent. That's who I am. And in order for me to have gotten where I am, it was art and respect formula that was put in place. And beginning with the art part of it is my mind, what I imagine, you know what I mean, what anybody visualize and imagine that, you know, they want in life. And the science part of it is, you know, what you have to do, whether it be
Numerical?
Numerical.
All right.
Whether it's numerical or just knowledge, you know what I mean?
Right.
You know what I mean? To accomplish, you know, that you envision. It's almost like faith without works is dead.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, I named it that and centered it around respect because everywhere I go around the world, you know, I'm asked different questions. How did you do this? How did you accomplish this? How did this happen? You know what I mean? What's the blueprint where this is concerned? And in my book, you know, I've begun, you know, with my wins, my losses, everything that happened in between. And I poured, you know, all of my wisdom, knowledge, and understanding in there from personal experiences and different blueprints and techniques, how I've done and accomplished different things that I feel would be answers to a lot of the questions that was asked of me.
Right. You historically, you know, you kind of mentored a lot of the moguls that were under you, people that wanted to start labels, particularly in the South, whether it be the Tony Drapers, you know, the Babies, Master P, whatever. I'm sure people come to you, like you said, with questions all the time. Do any of the younger cats that are in younger, sort of, but you know what I'm saying, in the last 10 or so years, people that have come up, you know, the 50s, the top dogs, whatever, have they come to you for advice, or when they see you, you know, ask you questions as being kind of like the OG of the independent movement?
Yeah, all the time. I'm about to have a meeting with the homie P, who, you know, over the Amigos.
Yeah, QC.
Yeah, right now. But this happen all the time, you know, because they respect my movement, what I've done, and I enjoy sharing my wisdom with them for free.
Yeah, that's dope. I mean, that's invaluable knowledge right there.
Yeah,
100%. So, in sharing that wisdom, man, you talk a lot about just the trials that y'all had to go through with radio and with DJs and things of that nature, man. And now that the music is moving away from having to rely on radio to get stuff played, things are directly in the consumer's hands, man. How does your business model with that change? Because even though, you know, Rap-A-Lot isn't putting out a ton of albums every year, you still have your hands in a lot of music, especially that comes out of Texas.
Right. This is the land of milk and honey right now. You know what I mean? Whereas it took me 6 months, you know what I mean, to break a record or do different things. They can push a button now with this new social media movement, you know what I mean? I tell everybody I wish I would have had access to this kind of power, you know what I mean, back when I first started, because I could have, you know, the money would have quadrupled, you know what I mean? So
really? Because I mean, it's like when you hear people talk about like the new rules, like for instance, like when the album goes gold or platinum, like you had to sell a solid amount of this thing to go gold or platinum. Now they got the math in there, like, oh, you know, 1,500 clicks equals this now, and that and the other, and then, you know, you're getting even deeper than that. Now they're saying, oh, well, you get paid a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a fraction for that. So like when you think of it like that, so you think it still quadruples, you still see that kind of money being generated with this new math going on?
Well, what I was saying is I wish I had this kind of access back then.
Okay.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? This is with CDs and different things. You know what I mean? Now, this is a different day and time.
Directly touch the consumer.
You know what I mean? Imagine having these kind of machines and different things back when in the CD era.
Right.
You know what I mean? When you can, this information would travel that fast. Yeah. Hey, man, it would have been a beautiful day.
Definitely. You know, I had, and this is crazy because during the time, like, we were covering it heavy. I was at XXL then when Houston got its second run with Swisher House and Slim Thug, Mike Jones, Paul Wall, all those guys. Yeah, I had no idea whatsoever that you were part of that deal as well, man. Like, how involved are you in these behind-the-scenes deals with music, especially coming out of Texas?
Well, definitely out of Houston. You know, I even, like, when I went into the deal with Asylum, I structured my deal that you can't touch nothing in my backyard that I can't be a part of. You know what I mean? And that was, I knew, that's part of being a visionary. You know what I mean? I knew when I made different moves, people were gonna follow my moves. Right. So therefore, since I knew that, I told Asylum I need a piece of Asylum, and you know, anything that come out of the backyard, you know, down anywhere in Texas, I gotta be down with it. At least I got to have the first option. To decide if I want to be down with it or not. And when Swisher House came on the radar, you know, it was already understood. They brought it to me, and therefore I went directly to them. And if you notice, I named that chapter Penny Wise, Dollar Dumb. You know what I mean? I kind of hated to name it that, but I had to be real with the people, right? So I had a meeting with them and make a watch them, and I told them, I said, hey, man, I have a distribution deal and marketing deal with Asylum. I say, now, y'all come on and let's do a 50-50 deal where you can get 50%. We give them the fee, you know what I mean, the marketing distribution fee. Because I wanted the homies in the backyard with me to eat. You know, these guys decided that they didn't want to do that deal with me and went, you know, out the back door, around to the front door, and told Asylum, we want to do a production deal with y'all. Okay, it was already understood with Asylum that, okay, well, we gonna do the 50-50. You know what I mean? And you know, my heart went out to them brothers, you know, on payday, because, you know, they didn't snap until payday came of the mistake they had made. You know what I mean? I was supposed to have been chopping that bread up, them millions up with them. But there it is, me and Asylum chopping it up.
Did that happen with a lot? Because that's the thing I was going to follow up with. You know, I can kind of see where they're coming from, where they're like, hey, man, we built this thing up. This company's knocking on our door. Oh, man, we got to cut this person in. Nah, we should just go directly with you, not knowing what your motive might have been at the time. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, did you get a lot of pushback when guys were signing with that company? And they're like, hold on, man. Jay wasn't in the studio with me making this song. Why do I have to do that with him? Like, was there a lot of like pushback from that situation?
You know, I didn't. It was that's the thing that surprised me, because they told me we want to do what you done. I say, well, who better can show you what I done than
How
me?
to do it?
You know what I mean? And then the reality is, it's real clear what I offer, and it's real clear what you sign. You know what I mean? So sometimes, believe it or not, you know, some people feel better doing deals with white people than they do with black.
That's what I was gonna say. The white man's water is a little colder.
That's just how it is. You know what I mean? I'm glad I never had that illness or that disease, but it exists.
100%. Were you at all surprised that run in Houston didn't last longer during that period?
No, I wasn't surprised, and you know, I was at the forefront blowing the horn, trying to motivate these dudes to.
I remember the Source cover. With all of ours, they shot that at your ranch, right?
Right. So I'm trying to tell them we got the spotlight on the city. Perform. You know what I mean? Go in the studio versus saying I done start a grill company, all your attention on grills. Y'all done started clubs, you know what I mean? Everybody wanna be in the club, nobody in the studio producing while the spotlight is on. So bam, Miami, Atlanta, opportunity.
Right.
You know what I mean? And as you know, y'all been having it out here in Atlanta, and you know what to do with it. They ain't trying to let it lead the city.
Yeah,
I
the
respect
ball has
that.
been here for a minute.
Yeah.
The ball has definitely been here for a minute. What do you think about some of the newer artists coming out of the city that don't necessarily sound like that traditional sound, i.e. like a Travis Scott that's from, Missouri City? What's your thoughts on that?
I like that. You know what I mean? I was so glad to hear something different than the screwed up sound and all that kind of stuff. To me it played out. You know what I mean? And at some point you have to evolve. Everybody can't follow, you know what I mean, the same thing. So Travis, yeah, I tip my hat to him for what he stepped out and done.
Cool. So like getting back to the book a little bit, was it a hard process sharing some of these things? Because like you could tell, at least I'm kind of privy to it, but at some moments in the book, it's like you're like, all right, Jay went in on that part. Then some parts is like, okay, that sounds like something I'm just going to ask that man next time I see him, because he's obviously not trying to print that. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, what was the process like, and how did you choose like what you want to share, what you want to leave out, and was it difficult opening up? You know what I'm saying? Because in the editing process, your editors are always saying, bro, you get to elaborate on that, please add more to that.
Yeah. Well, I somewhat think I've done everything strategically to the best of my ability without any repercussions coming my way. You know what I mean? So there's an art and a science to, how you even do that.
Yeah.
And, we can talk about it. If it's something that I can talk about, y'all ask me right now.
Yeah. Freedom is important. 100%. Freedom is definitely important. One of the stories you did tell that I thought was very interesting, that I did want you to get deeper into, so we'll ask you this, is when you, Irv, and Suge sat down to talk about the distribution company, in hindsight, do you think it was a mistake to let the public know that that's what y'all were doing? Yeah,
definitely. And it wasn't my idea to let them know. That came through one of the other homies. I don't like to let people know what I'm thinking or planning before it come to fruition.
Right.
And I think somebody went blew the horn immediately. Yeah.
And it was seemed to be downhill from there. That's obviously when the investigations came, and it might have been a coincidence, but it probably wasn't.
Yeah. No, more likely it wasn't than was.
Right. Yeah. Now the music, and we talked about earlier, is primarily digital and easier to distribute. Why do you think it is that we still, even though you cutting out a lot of the P&D, you cutting out a lot of that, why do you think we still haven't seen a black-owned distribution outlet that's pushing things in a major way?
Because that take a strong mindset to want to go there. You know what I mean? And it also take a sacrifice to do it. It's every now and then you see these different mind frames that you know what I mean come about that's willing to challenge the odds and want to like engrave a blueprint that hasn't been done before. And that's something I wanted to do. I didn't really see or was motivated by nobody else to do the independent thing the way I done it. It's just something I felt, in my bones, I wanted to do it that way. You know what I mean? Because I was inspired by Russell Simmons, their movement back then, but we know they wasn't independent.
Right.
You know what I mean? I had a mind frame and a mentality. I'm like, I done had practice in the streets with doing a lot of different things. So, I can't do it the way y'all done it.
Right.
So,
and honestly, I mean, even back then, it wasn't really an option coming out of Houston.
Yeah.
To partner up with some of these folks.
Yeah. Well, actually, I even knocked on the doors, because I had a lawyer that they had. He knocked on the doors of some of them major record labels, and they weren't trying to hear it.
Yeah. Did you ever, I mean, you guys dealt with all kind of stuff with deals with majors and distributors not wanting to put out the product, and then, you know, Ice-T having issues with Cop Killer and that falling back on y'all. Did you ever think that you would see the day where rappers can pretty much say whatever the hell they want to say and it gets on everything?
Man, you know, no. I didn't see this one coming. Even with radio, everything go down. You know what I mean? They fought me tooth and nails, man, on shit. It's a word like shit. You know what I mean? And now, you know what I mean, any and everything goes. So I didn't see this one coming.
100%. Let's switch gears a little bit, man. One of the other things that people know you a lot about from you is the boxing world. And you've been involved, you know, since getting with Floyd early on in his career, helping transform his career. Diego Corrales, Andre Ward from my hometown, Oakland, California. You always rock with Oakland, man. We're going to get into the Rap A Lot West thing, too. With crazy things, Seagram and my cousin Vic was best friends growing up, man.
Is that right?
Yeah, man.
Oh, man.
Crazy. Vic actually live out here now. I'm going to hang out with him this weekend. But with the boxing thing, man, obviously, you know, you threw hands growing up. You've opened boxing gyms and whatnot. Was it tougher? Because, you know, boxing is straight up, you know, gangster, mafia control. Yeah. Was it tougher for you to break into that business than it was into the rap game?
No, it wasn't, because I was already groomed and I was ready, you know what I mean, by the time, you know, I stepped in the boxing world. But both of them are cutthroat businesses. Yeah. You know what I mean? And both of them, you dealing with homies from the hood. Yeah. So I was at home. You know what I mean, and had learned a lot by the time, you know, I started playing on the boxing playing field, and they didn't know what was coming at them. Right. Yeah. So for me to, you know, start off with Floyd and have the mentality that I had, you know, immediately they started attacking me.
Yeah, I remember.
I mean? Yeah,
of course.
You remember that, right? Mm-hmm. I'm talking about I'm in the papers every week. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's attack after attack, because, you know, whenever these people see you coming, their direction to break strongholds, then they try to stop that before it takes place.
I mean, we saw the same thing. You know, we had P at A3C in front of an audience, and he discussed
Master
P. He discussed in detail how the NBA league office, other agents, everybody came at him hard when he was breaking into that. And they even put out, you know, they blamed him for the Ricky Waters deal, which wasn't even his fault. Ricky Williams deal, which wasn't his fault, which kind of damaged his thing. We saw when Rock Nation first started rolling, they would throw little jabs at Jay, and he knows how to make records. Does he know what he's doing? You're absolutely right. Whenever, you know, especially black folks try to break into a particular business, that's how it is. But now that you've gotten super heavy into it, you're a staple in boxing, from the management, negotiation, and everything. How do you, now that, you know, and Andre Ward has retired, unfortunately, none of us wanted to see him retire, but he retired on top. Are there particular guys that you're looking at now? Because the first thing that came to mind to me was the Charlo twins, because they from Houston, and that's a big story.
Yeah. Well, even before them, you know, we reached and signed the silver medalists. You know what I mean? Just like Andre Ward was a gold medalist. Right. Shakur Stevenson is a silver medalist.
He's a beast.
And he's with us. So, you know, a lot of the focus is on him right now. But, you know, as far as the Charlo twins, they definitely on my radar. And definitely Crawford. You know what I mean? I think Crawford is one of the best, if not the best, at 47 right now.
Yeah.
So I got my eyes on it.
So how does that compare to like signing artists? You know what I'm saying? Because like when you're running a record label, you're looking for, can this person make good music? Can I market this? Does this person work hard? Is he a headache? What things are you looking for in boxers before you bring them in your stable? Are you looking like, are you looking at guys like, okay, I know you lost 4 times, but I saw something in you. Or do they have to be, you know, undefeated to even have a conversation? Do you have to see them go in the gym a certain amount of times a week? You know what I'm saying? Like, what are you looking for in boxers the same way that you look at for in rap artists?
Well, let me agree with you on everything you just said. It's the same thing. Okay. You know what I mean? You're looking for those same ingredients. See, those are ingredients of success, what you just said. You know what I mean? And them ingredients apply to everything. So you're looking for those same things, but you know, you have to also be able to have an eye and a gift for knowing, you know, is this guy elite or not? Because you got a lot of fighters, and me myself, I like to work with the elite because there's so many fighters. If you take on jobs from, you know, everybody that, you know, extend the invitation, you overload it. So I'm trying to pick the cream of the crop.
Yeah.
And that's a work ethic, that's a lifestyle, that's different from artists. A boxer have to live a clean lifestyle.
True.
You know what I mean? All that drinking or smoking, that ain't gonna work in the boxing world. So unlike the music game, you know, they can get high and be creative and different things like that. Not in the fight.
No, you get high, you might
Get
die.
knocked out.
Yeah.
I mean, you talked about the James Page thing. That story was heartbreaking, man.
Yeah.
For sure. Do you at all, and I know they're kind of on the come up a little bit, look at any of the female boxers?
No, I never really been interested in the female boxers.
As soon as I saw her fight and like read her story, I think somebody you should take a look at is Clarissa Shields.
Oh yeah,
out
I'm
of
familiar
Michigan.
with her. I'm familiar.
I think y'all could do great work together.
Yeah.
Cause she's a star and
Yeah.
she's a beast.
Oh, she go hard.
Yeah,
She
100%.
go hard.
Have you ever on the sports thing, and what I like about you, I feel like you and Ice Cube are two people that stay making moves, stay making money, but y'all net worth is never reported. I gotta respect that 1,000%, man. Have you ever thought about investing in a professional sports team?
Yeah. Actually, the Texans.
Okay.
Years ago, I was going to invest in the Texans until I got on the inside and saw how it really worked, and I became uninterested real quickly because that was a situation. They even told me, don't do this unless this is a hobby. To
Right.
You. You know what I mean? I couldn't see tying up my paper and having to wait until not making anything until the sale of the team, basically.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So that's just a ride that you take that's based on the majority shareholder when he get ready to sell. You may not even be alive. You can't control
Wow.
what that 51% and what he want to do. So
Gotcha.
that's the way that is. with
Right. You speaking of football, you had the opportunity to chop it up with Colin Kaepernick recently. I don't know how much you want to go into detail at all, but how did that conversation go? And what is your take on him being one of the few athletes to take a stand and sacrifice for what he believes in?
Yeah, no, I love that. I met the brother. I had an interview with his lady, and he
Yeah.
came to meet me, you know, after the interview. And, you know, upon seeing the brother, I couldn't do nothing but inspire him, you know, with the words that Larry Hoover left me with. You know, he said, keep swinging at him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I encourage the brother. I said, keep swinging at him. Don't quit. And he and I, you know, swapped information, and we plan on connecting in the future to, you know, do some things together, community stuff.
Speaking of Hoover, not to get all the way off topic, but it's like, and I'm sure I'm not the only one like this, I got introduced to Larry Hoover through listening to Rap-A-Lot albums. You know what I'm saying? It's like, kind of knew what was going on with Chicago and the culture, but like never really knew names. You know what I'm saying? So like I got introduced to Larry Hoover when I bought that Resurrection album that time. I was like, damn, what's this? You know, and I saw that y'all had the gear on the inside and the letters to write and everything. Like, why did you choose to you know, make that move? Because, you know, that wasn't something that was happening a lot at the time, as far as, you know, not only putting, you know, giving like incarcerated cats a voice on an album, but, you know, people that folks may look at as public enemy number one. Like, it's cool to put somebody on the album. Not like, hey, man, I got Meech calling from the jail cell on my album. You know what I'm saying? But back then, like, folks might have looked at that like, yo, man, like, what are they doing and why is that? So I wanted to know, like, what was the, you know, reasoning behind, you know, making that kind of move, man?
Well, you know, I got introduced through Larry Hoover through Rap-A-Lot, too.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Chicago was the first city that embraced us.
Right.
You know what I mean? They embraced us before anybody did. And, you know, a request came from him because he had studied me and he wanted to meet me. So I went in and I met the brother, and we was able to chop it up for a few hours, one-on-one, and in the midst of chopping it up with him, I realized his thinking ability. You know what I mean? I felt his spirit, and I'm like, oh, this brother is solid. You know what I mean? This brother can think. I was impressed, and we established a relationship that been going on ever since then. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, and with all that being said, I became real creative on getting this message out there because, I had the platform for his voice to be heard, and he and I had several private conversations that I wanted to share. You know what I mean? I didn't want to keep it to myself, so I'm like, bam, let's do this telephone call, and I got all kinds of threats from, the correctional facility, from all kinds of people that I bet not release that intro. And as you can see, I didn't listen. You know what I mean?
Yeah. With Hoover, I know he's been, they've been kind of unfair with him.
Yeah.
In the facilities since writing the book. Has his situation improved any? Has there been any light on it? Because I know he's been in solitary for a really long time. Yeah. They're messing with his visits and all of that. Has it changed at all?
Yeah. It has changed a little bit since the spotlight was put on it.
Good.
And we wanted to change even more. So we're going to put the high beams on the situation and keep applying the pressure. And, hopefully Trump would do right by him and pardon him.
Yeah, well, so far it looked like Trump only pardoning dead black people. So far, he needs to pardon people that can use it right now.
Well, he just pardoned on the lady that all of a sudden Kim Kardashian came, you know what I'm saying?
That was so bogus. There's been other people fighting for so long to get that. He pardoned, I just came out today, he pardoned Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali ain't under no crime. Like, how you pardoning somebody that ain't been convicted or nothing?
So he done that today?
Yeah. Okay. Tripping.
Well, you never know. I'm going to believe in him, Trump, if you're listening. This is a good one to pardon.
Yeah, definitely. Switching gears a little bit, we found out yesterday that this long ass court case between Wayne and Universal and Cash Money has been settled. Do you feel like, does that give you a little bit of more hope that this situation with you, with the Drake situation and Jazz, with Cash Money and Universal, will finally be fully paid out?
Yeah, actually that been happening. So I've been having hope.
Okay.
They just kind of announced it. But it's been a conversation that's taken place, and I'm happy. First of all, foremost, I'm happy for Wayne.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? A man that has paid the dues and made the sacrifices that he made. Then him being first, if all the money was on the table, I say, man, take yours first. Mm-hmm. So I have no problem with that, and I'm happy for the brother and hope he do the right thing with his paper. But right after him come us, you know what I mean? So we looking forward to collecting ours and moving forward in the words of harmony.
Yeah, definitely.
How difficult is it handling those kind of situations, especially when these are folks, I ain't saying that you run into these dudes every day, but y'all are moving in the same circles, on the same tours, you know what I'm saying? So it's how difficult is it, keeping these kind of disputes in the courtroom on paper? Not saying that you're ever going to be like, nigga, when I see you, it's on site. You know what I'm saying? But how difficult is it being like, this man just walked past me backstage at this show, knowing that he ain't doing right and that he messing with something that belongs to me? How difficult is it navigating those kind of situations?
From everything we know, I don't think there's ever a conversation of when I'm gonna see you, it's gonna be on site. I just think it's on site when it happens. It is what it is.
Yeah. Well, the tough part is when you, one, you inspire, one, you share your blueprint with, one, you know what I mean, you embrace as family, and things like this take place. But you also have to not be narrow-minded in a situation. You also have to, think, what happened, and do some due diligence to see what happened.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Is this guy playing me like I'm weak, or is he on some sucker shit, or is he dealing with a situation where he got lost in the sauce himself through his own mistakes.
Right.
And it was more of that situation which caused me to not react another way. You know what I mean? It's almost like you just twist the money off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You just fuck the money off.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
Hard to pay what you don't have.
Yeah, and you done that based on decisions you made that you thought would go a certain way, and they didn't. So, you know, I sympathize with that to a certain extent, but you know what I mean, I still got to have my paper. And they understand that, and it's going to be resolved. And we're going to do future business together.
Of course. It's only right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I'm
only
going to
right.
just get mine directly from the...
Yeah. I'm sure shit got real when you went up there and audited the books. I'm sure it got real then. One thing, you know, being from the West Coast, being from the Bay, one thing I always appreciated was how much love Rap-A-Lot showed to the West as far as releasing, you know, albums, you know, Young Mouth, Pop LQ, Sig, all of that. How did that...
Papa LQ was hard, Charlie.
Pop LQ was dope. How did that whole thing, you know, start off for you? Because I think Seagram was the first one from the West, right?
Yeah,
and
Sig.
I remember, I don't even think he was on Rap-A-Lot then. The first joint, The Ville, was like the hardest shit we had ever heard coming out of Oakland.
Yeah.
Like that was crazy. If y'all don't know anything about 6ix9ine, go ahead and do your Googles and research that. But how did that whole thing come about?
Well, I got a lot of family that's in Oakland.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Uncles, cousins. So, you know, all throughout the West, back in my hustling days, you know, I was in them cities.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was introduced to Seagram, you know, through the homie, Black, D, you know, all of them, you know what I mean, showed love where he was concerned. And, man, you know, I remember first time I met Seagram, the brother rapped from the airport, freestyle from the airport for like an hour and something long all the way to the ranch. Non-stop. I'm talking about dope hard shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I was like, whoa, where does boy get this kind of shit from? You know what I mean? I'm talking about solid shit. So I was impressed by C, and from there, you know, I started kicking it with the Rolling 60 homies out there in LA, and some of the blood homies out that way in the jungle as well, and made it real clear that, you know, I ain't red, I ain't blue, I'm green. So, you know what I mean? They embraced me for being green, and we all had fun together.
Definitely. Also, you know, you did a lot with Young Mouth, you had the label, the Smoke a Lot Records, the whole regime thing. He released some of his best music under you and always speaks very highly of you. What did you see in Yuck that you knew he could be a solo artist and excel as a solo artist? Yeah,
Yuck always had that like entrepreneur spirit on himself, man. Yuck was an artist that I could give a budget to, and I ain't had to worry about him, you know, screwing nothing off. He brought it all back, you know what I mean, just like he said he would. So he was someone who I trusted that won my trust, really.
Right.
And, you know, he was always a good dude. We had a lot of fun together.
Since, you know, we're talking about Oakland, I'm from Atlanta, and, you know, what was your music and business relationship like with like artists in Atlanta? Because correct me if I'm wrong, I think the only artist I've seen from Atlanta that was close to even being an affiliate of Rap-A-Lot was KB, who was from Decatur like I am, who used to rap with Devin a lot. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So with Rap-A-Lot, relationships with Atlanta artists and Atlanta music, was it a thing where you looked at it like where I'm just focusing on Houston, Atlanta's over there? Or was it a thing where it's like, you know, man, nothing over there really interests me. Ain't no reason for me to, you know, stick my nose over there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I think I actually signed a few artists from Atlanta. I was you know, I believed in embracing opportunity. I didn't discriminate. Okay. You know what I mean? I always thought Atlanta was dope. I'm trying to think of, I signed what Trio Town.
Oh, Trillville.
Right.
You did your show there. Okay,
Trillville.
John.
Done something with Trillville. And it was a few other people. I just didn't nobody really popped.
Okay.
You know what I mean? That I played with out here.
We can't talk about Rap a Lot without talking about the Ghetto Boys. We had Willie D on a couple months ago, and he was talking about when you first put him, Bushwick, Scarface together, and being at the studio and literally recording that first album in 10 days.
Yeah.
What are your memories from that process? Because you were very much involved in the creative process then, too.
Right.
I mean, he is the ghetto boy.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
Yeah. You know, we done that first album, man, on a pool table. You know what I mean? On a pool table with a mic on the wall, taped it on the wall in an open room. And we done that album for less than a $5,000 budget. And things exploded.
Yeah.
So, you know, you can imagine, and he right, you know, we done it fast. You know, it was right after I got rid of the other set of Ghetto Boys because, you know, I had decided that I wanted this to be done the way I wanted it to be done. And the other guys was telling me, you too deep. I said, okay, I'm too deep. Y'all get y'all ass up out of here. I wasn't too deep when I was spending my money on y'all ideas.
Right.
You know what I mean? So how I'm so deep now that I want to write and be creative, and I'm asking you to make my things rhyme that I know is real.
Yeah.
You know, you've been writing this Tonka Toy shit, and I've been rolled with you in the Tonka Toy world. These people want some real shit.
Yeah.
Here's a real story for you. Make it rhyme. You're too deep. All right, get out the house. Y'all go. And I went and got Bushwick, Scarface, and Willie D. You know what I mean? 3 individuals that didn't know one another, but had enough sense and enough heart to ride with me.
Yeah, I mean that's essentially what he said, especially with Bushwick, because Bushwick is the wild card all the time, for sure. What's your favorite Ghetto Boys album?
We Can't Be Stopped.
Okay, that
Why?
makes sense.
Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, We Can't Be Stopped because, you know, that was a album after we had went through some things. You know what I mean? We had an attitude and demeanor, energy going into that album that really broke down all the doors that we was trying to break down. You know what I mean? That was the album that Mind Playing Tricks was on,
Right.
which, you know, penetrated every radio station that we could never get. So that was like the
Still
beginning.
being played to this
Yeah,
day.
that was the beginning of our real movement.
So you got a favorite Ghetto Boys album, B?
I think Resurrection is my favorite Ghetto Boys album.
Yeah.
I definitely think Resurrection
That was
is my
dope, too.
favorite. You actually, you know, you've always given ideas, but you actually rapped on Damn It Feels Good to Be a Gangster.
Yeah.
How did that happen? Because I've never heard you say you wanted to rap on nothing.
Yeah, you know, I had wrote so much of that song until, and that was one that I wrote and made rhyme.
Okay.
I normally would just give ideas and write down, but I actually made that. I done that from A to Z. So I'm like, all right. They was telling me, man, why don't you rap on it? Why don't you spit on it? I'm like, all right, y'all do this shit here, and I'll finish it up. I'm gonna be the president.
Were you tripping on how that song gained a second life when it was in the Office Space movie?
Yeah, that was interesting. That was interesting. I wasn't tripping though because that was his paycheck.
Yeah.
Right.
And yeah, it was all good.
Yeah, it definitely came out of nowhere. I damn sure wasn't expecting that in the movie.
I mean, they had like 2 Ghetto Boy songs in that
Yeah,
movie.
they did. Yeah. But no, that shit made it. I think that made it a classic because it was very early in the movie. You was not expecting that at all. If y'all never seen Office Space, definitely go and watch that. Willie D also said, we asked him what is the percentage chance that we would hear another Ghetto Boys album, and he said 10%. Do you agree? Is it more or less in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it depends if I was involved or not. It could go up to 100 if I was involved.
We already know
But
that.
I'm not involved. So, yeah, probably the chances are slim and none, and slim is out of town.
Yeah. That's very unfortunate. You've been involved in a lot of situations of brokering deals and brokering peace and all of that. And you mentioned in the book that, you know, you did not want to be involved with brokering the situation between Puff and Suge and the East and it wasn't really East and West Coast, between Puff and Suge, because you didn't fully understand what was going on. You couldn't fully wrap your mind around it because you didn't feel like you was getting 100% of the truth. And you also said that you were very close to going to meet with Pac while he was in jail and working out business with him.
Right.
Is that one of those things that you still think about, like at times, like if you guys had done business together, if you would have been there to kind of guide him and keep him from wilding out, that he would still be here?
Yeah, definitely around the time he got hit, you know what I mean? I couldn't do nothing but play that around in my mind over and over again because I was with him like a week or so before that happened.
Right.
And he asked me, man, come go out with me, come party with me. But my old man had just came home from jail.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I gotta go home, Pop. But yeah, I played that around, man, because you know, I saw so many things I would have done differently.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Even on that ride that night, you know, there's an art and a science to how you roll in the street with vehicles. Right. And if that was even used appropriately, nobody could have pulled up on him and got off on him like that.
100%. Very true. You was also, you know, very close to being one of the owners of Death Row Records.
Right.
What is that, you know, and obviously with having your hands in so many different businesses, there's probably a million things that you talk about Vanilla Ice in the book and how that should have been the thing. Yeah. What is the one deal that you really wanted to be a part of that did not happen?
I mean, that Vanilla Ice one would have been a nice one. You're talking about 12, 13, 14 million records that sold that I missed out on. And, you know, it didn't have to be that way. Right. You know what I mean? I brought this dude from the club home and set him up in Houston for a week or two, told my partner to sign him. He ready to sign whatever. You know what I mean? I had heard a piece of Ice Ice Baby then. So you talking about an opportunity, and I got to blame myself. You know what I mean? I got to begin with me because that's an opportunity I placed in somebody else's hand that didn't do like I asked him. And I should have been there and followed it up, drove him there, made sure the ink had dried and everything.
I mean, but I'm sure that you probably gained more money than that from learning that lesson.
I don't know if I ever recouped.
But you say 13, 14 million is a lot of bread.
You know what that was. Like, $12 a CD, man.
Woo. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Definitely. Man, how does it feel looking back to see that you've helped, if not fully established, an ecosystem as far as entertainment in Houston that's still living to this day?
That feels good. You know what I mean? It feels good. And even though I had that desire when I was speaking on a lot of the intros, I never really envisioned it to take place to the magnitude that it has taken place. But, you know, I was planting the seeds. You know what I mean? I knew what I was trying to accomplish, but this has grown into a full-grown monster.
Yeah. One of the themes in the book from damn near beginning to end is your desire for serenity, which is, and in the rap game, in entertainment, it's normally hustle, bustle, big city living, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
What made you, what drew you to being in a serene place, being outside of that, being able to think and just open up your world to things that you really didn't necessarily grow up around?
Yeah, balance. You know what I mean? I figured out how to get balance, like in the midst of the storm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was one of the reasons when I would hustle 2 and 3 days, you know, no sleep. I went out there to, you know, my ranch, my 30-acre ranch, and I felt, you know, the rejuvenation that, you know, came from it. I felt the energy that came from nature. You know what I mean? The stars, the sounds of the crickets. You know what I mean? I tapped into that energy, and I'm like, whoa, this medicine. This is medicine to my spirit. So, and it's addictive. You know what I mean? Once you get it and once you understand what it is and how it benefits you, you want more of it.
Yeah.
So before I know it, I was building, places all over the world where I can go get my fix.
Yeah.
That's a fix.
Yeah.
Does that play into like your, affinity for animals and all that kind of stuff, man?
Yeah, all of that. Because I love to hunt. You know what I mean? And I love watching animals, but it's deeper than just the animal thing. You know what I mean? It's a spiritual thing that comes from God and the things that He created. You know what I mean? To be in the midst of, like on the island, the waves.
Right.
You know what I mean? The air. All of the elements of Him. It's powerful things to tap into.
So towards the end of your book, you have a list of goals. Like, I'm curious, like, when did you make this list of goals that you have printed in the book? When did you make it?
In 1993 and 1994.
Okay, so you said you did just about everything on here with the exception of you have listed make a movie about my life. You got the book.
Yeah.
How soon is the movie coming? Is that already in progress?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's in progress to the extent where I'm speaking to directors.
Okay.
So that's a goal that has to be fulfilled, and maybe I can change that in the next book.
And I'm glad that I saw this because this reminded me that I probably either need to revisit the one I made years ago or make a new one, because that was a very life-changing thing for me. I made a list of goals maybe about 5 or 6 years ago, and I can honestly say damn near all of them came through, and I was like, damn man, this shit actually works. Hey
man, it's a powerful thing to write down your goals and look at them daily, and then do something to attack that goal on a day,
right.
And then X that one out once. You know what I mean? It's a powerful thing,
right.
Man.
Final question. You mentioned that that the serenity and having these different spots around the world becomes an addiction, and addiction is another theme in the book. You talk about your pops, your moms, your brother.
Yeah.
A lot of people around you dealing with addiction. But I thought what was interesting is you didn't necessarily paint addiction as all a negative, because you said addicted to success or whatever.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit just about that before we go, about how you can use addiction to fuel you or it can be used to destroy you.
Yeah. Well, one of the first things that come to mind is like drug addictions from two perspectives. You know what I mean? You got the user and you got the dealer. And you got a dealer who think he's better than a user. When in reality, both of y'all is dealing with addiction. One is destroying, their body or their health, and then one is taking a risk at destroying his life and his freedom, and which ties into his health. You know what I mean, as well. But it's easy to be in denial or feel that, oh, what you doing, you tricking. You know what I mean? You looking down on them. And what's so interesting about it is the fiend part of it works on both ends too. You know what I mean? When that user run out of drugs and want to hit, they go to fiending. When that seller run out of dope and want to supply to somebody, he go to fiending as well, which taking extra chances, doing, you know what I mean? So it's important for you to it helps when you can see the best of both sides of the world when it comes to rising up out of that bondage.
No doubt. Man, I definitely want to thank you for coming through. Please, June 22nd, pick up The Art and Science of Respect. I'm sure it'll be available everywhere. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. And also the audio, you know what I mean, narrated by me.
Okay. Obviously,
I don't know who else would have been able to do that.
I don't think Morgan Freeman. I don't think anybody can deliver it like that.
You ain't want to hear that at all. We appreciate y'all listening to Day One Radio. Make sure that you follow us on all your social media. Make sure that you subscribe, rate, and review, and tell a friend to tell a friend. We on Spotify, iHeartMedia, everywhere you can, Apple Podcasts, everywhere you can get podcasts. And you on Instagram now for now.
Yeah.
I have a feeling like a year from now that you're not going to be on Instagram.
It's been fun. J Prince Respect.
J Prince. And don't get upset if he don't follow you back. As you see, he's not following nobody. On there, straight up.
Yeah.
All right, man. We'll see y'all next week with another dope show.
Day one.
Yes.